网络研讨会即
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening. This is David I, and with me in the Deverell studio is John J.T. Thomas.
Morning, David.
Excellent. And we're here for the Skill Sprint. Today, this is the start of 3 in a row previews of upcoming technology, right, JT?
That's right.
I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, David. Yeah, so as David mentioned, over the next couple of weeks, these Tuesday skill sprints will be previewing some of the cool technologies that will be available in the next major release. And today, what I'll be sharing with you is a preview of proximity awareness using beacons. So let's jump right into it. For those of you that are unfamiliar with what a beacon is, I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about what they are and why they're cool. So beacons are basically small transmitting devices. There's a picture here I took last night on my kitchen table. This is an example of a beacon. This is one that I plug into my laptop or into any USB power source so that it can be powered and sit anywhere. You can use those little power cubes with the USB to stick them into a wall, for example, right there where the power is. So they're really small, they use very low energy, and basically all they do is they sit there and they transmit a radio signal on some interval. And like if you're familiar or you remember RF tags, I mean, they're still everywhere. This is kind of the predecessor, or RF was the predecessor to these technologies. And they send some basic information with each of those radio pulses. They typically use low energy Bluetooth, also known as Bluetooth LE, BLE, also known as smart Bluetooth. So what do beacons do? Well, they basically provide some information about who they are and where they are, otherwise known as proximity. And more specifically, a beacon can inform an app, typically it's a mobile app because those are walking around, how, first of all, that it's within its proximity. And you can also ask the beacon, or you can infer from the information that it gives you how close it is. And you do this by determining its signal strength. A beacon also provides some really basic information. It provides a UUID, a major ID, and a minor ID. And UUIDs are usually registered so you know that it belongs to, say, for example, Macy's or some advertising service or something like that. And there's cloud services you can use to look that information up. Also uses major IDs and minor IDs. And these are things that you can set as well. So for example, in this image over here on the right, what you see here is a layout of several beacons. And the major ID is used to assign to a particular room within a house. So for example, 103 is assigned to the living room. And within the living room, or in this case, there's some of these other beacons that have a minor ID that talk about specifically what it is next to. So there's a beacon that describes where the stereo is, or where the sofa is, or where the table is, for example. So this is a simple example of how to use major IDs and minor IDs to lay out several beacons so that you can get information about your environment, or contextual information about your environment other than just pure numbers. So what kind of things can you do with beacons? Well, an app that is beacon aware can know that it's within the proximity of a beacon when it enters and exits this range. And this is generally the BLE range, which is probably 30 feet roughly, 10 meters or so. Maybe it's a little longer, actually.
Yeah, it depends on the environment as well. If you're going through solid walls or the steel in the walls and so on. I mean, regular Bluetooth is 100 meters max, but again, there's environmental challenges. It might be 30 meters, but we can always do a test, later on. But it really gets affected by the environment.
And the main thing to know here is that that range is really what sets up the proximity circle, if you will, or diameter of where the beacon is. And then you can use, again, this information on it based on a signal strength to determine your exact distance from it. You don't exactly know what direction it is from you. That's something that you can infer if you have more than, if you have 3, you can triangulate. But you can definitely know your distance from the beacon, and you can walk around and again, infer its location based on its signal strength. And so that's the second one. You can determine how close you are to that beacon. You can know the identity of the beacon. And this is done again through that small data packet that it sends with the UID major and minor. And based on this information, then you can take some action based on seeing the beacon. And this is generally up to the programmer now to say, okay, I can see a beacon, what do I do? What do I do with this information? So let's look at a use case here. This one is a retail use case, which is probably the most obvious use of beacons. You can imagine walking into a Macy's and they have beacons set up all over the place, and they'll be able to, first of all, know you're there and greet you by name as you enter the store, because your app knows who you are. Your app knows that you've entered Macy's because that's the beacon that identified itself as the Macy's beacon, and that's the first thing you can do. Now, once it knows you're there, it'll start following you around. It can send you an advertising saying, hey, over in the men's section we have 25% off on shoes. It can give you step-by-step directions to a product. And this is kind of like a micro version of geofencing, because it provides a map in a small enclosed space. Now, of course, this takes laying out the beacons in a particular order and knowing where they're at in order to do that, but these are the kinds of things that you can do. So retail is an obvious, I think, an obvious way to use beacons. Another example might be, going to the medical facility, and rather than having to log in or stand in a line and register to see the doctor, the beacon sees you, or your app sees the beacon more specifically. And from that, all sorts of actions can happen. You can get automatically checked in. Your insurance copay can be paid. You can get put into the queue to see, to get ready to see the nurse. So all these actions, which have been largely mechanical previously, now become an automated step. So from a benefits perspective, you can help your customers save more money. You can generate more revenue. You can just provide a better shopping experience overall. So I wanted to share a quick video with you. Most of you know the movie Minority Report, and probably the most memorable thing from it was when Tom Cruise was interfacing with this video screen that was kind of a holographic screen in front of him, and using like a Nintendo Power Glove to run these gestures. So everybody thought, wow, that's the future. But I thought this scene was probably more apt.
A road diverges in the desert. Lexus. The road you're on, John Anderton, is the one less traveled. Make sure you are
You can move the old-fashioned John Anderton. John Anderton. You can use a Guinness right about here. John Anderton.
escape from it all, Harrison. Get away, John Anderton. Forget your troubles.
Hello, Mr. Yakamoto. Welcome back to the Gap. How those assorted tank tops work out for you?
So as Tom Cruise enters the mall, they know who he is. In this case, actually, he's wearing this is all done not by beacons in this movie, but by looking at the eyeball. And he exchanged eyeballs during the movie with another person. So he's John Anderton as he's walking through the store, and they're trying to sell him Lexuses and other things as he's walking through the store. So that's kind of a, looking forward 5 years, maybe we'll have that kind of experience as we walk into the malls. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about quickly what technology we're introducing in the next release. This is a preview of that technology. In XE7, we introduce support for Bluetooth in general. So this is standard Bluetooth, Bluetooth LE, and this is to help you all extend your applications into new types of gadgets and wearables and using app tethering over Bluetooth. So XE7 has this technology actually already built into it. What we did in this release was we wrapped up the BLE, or the Bluetooth Low Energy support, and we created a beacon component. And the basic idea here is that you can, if you have a beacon component in your app, it can just basically look for beacons. And it's going to give you events that you can deal with. If you enter a beacon range, then you get this on beacon enter event that gets sent to you. And from there, again, you can take that information, you can figure out who the beacon is, what you should do with that information, and build more exciting applications based on beacon technology for your customers. So now I'm going to run a quick demonstration. I'm going to use the T-beacon component to find my proximity to a beacon. What you see here is, this is a picture of my MacBook. This is my beacon plugged into USB. This one comes from Radius Networks. It's a USB-powered beacon. I'm going to build a 64-bit iOS app, which is also technology that we're previewing for the next major release. And I'm going to use it to discover the proximity to this beacon or any other beacons around me. I'm going to read its UUID, major ID, and minor ID, and then I'm going to calculate my distance based on its signal strength. So let me pop over to an IDE here. So this is a simple application. In the start search, I'm going to turn on the beacon, enable it, and then when I enter the zone of any of these beacons, I'm going to write the information out into this area right here. So let me go ahead and deploy it to iOS 64-bit on my iPhone 6 Plus. Okay, so here's the application running on my 6 Plus. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the search. And actually, I found two beacons. So the beacon that is closest to me, the one sitting in my MacBook, is a distance of about 1/4 of a meter from my phone, which is about right. And I found another beacon, which is about 4 meters away from me. I don't know where that is. Maybe it's in your office, David?
Yeah, that's I've got a battery-powered beacon by Nordic Semiconductor that's just sitting in my office up on a bookshelf.
Nice. Excellent.
That's cool. Yeah, that's the default UUID that they burn in, but there's a software app for changing it if you want to change the major minor.
As I mentioned, also some of these UIDs are registered so that there's services you can call to find out who they are, who they're from. This is for out in the wild, if you want to interact with beacons out in the wild, or you can build your own field of beacons based on this information as well. So yeah, that's the basic idea.
It's cool that you found the beacon in my office. I had forgotten what the UUID was, but I see the pattern. You can see that, it just sort of goes up in hex.
Yep.
That's very fun.
Nice.
But I could go and grab it and move around, and you could track me, JT. You could see if I'm getting too close to you, for example. And
there you go. There's another use for the beacon.
Yeah,
is David coming over to see me?
Personal security.
Okay, so that was today's skill sprint. Again, it was a preview of upcoming feature, which is using beacons and doing proximity awareness based on these technologies. The next preview, of course, there's a Fire Deck skill sprint this week, but next Tuesday, we'll be doing the next preview skill sprint. And Marco's going to be talking about EMS push notifications. He's going to show you how to use EMS to send notifications to EMS clients. And that'll be March 17th, next Tuesday. There's lots of great offers that are available to you right now. Check out embarcadero.com/radoffer. All these offers end this month. So you want to get on them as soon as possible. In addition to a BOGO, where if you buy the product, you can get select another Embarcadero product. There's lots of great products, not just developer tools products, but also our database products like Rapid SQL, for example, a very popular version. We have an offer to upgrade to Enterprise, and we're giving away 10 user EMS accounts in that version as well. So it's a great chance to not only get into Enterprise, but not to really be able to try out and deploy EMS in-house. Continue to have a wonderful bonus pack for you. And we also are offering the ability to save up to 45% if you're on a version that is not eligible for an XE7 upgrade. So any of you that are on XE3 or previous are allowed to get in at the upgrade price right now. And the final one, which is the most important, especially as we're talking about these previews, is if you buy XE7 now, before March 31st, you're going to get these technologies. You're going to get the next major release for free. You don't need to wait. Go get it. There's all sorts of cool technologies. In fact, the Bluetooth Low Energy support is already in XE7, as well as other Bluetooth support, nav tethering. And when the next major release comes out, you'll be getting the beacon support as well. I'll take some questions now, David.
Okay, and I'm here with JT, who's been typing away. Let me start recording for this live Q&A. And let's see. Is there a vendor list of beacons that have worked with Rad Studio? We haven't.
We haven't published that yet because this is an unreleased feature, first of all. But in general, we are looking to support any iBeacon or AltBeacon technology. It's a very simple technology. So in terms of the likelihood that some particular beacon manufacturer won't be supported is, I think, very low.
Yep. Again, so if you look at if Apple has a site or if Google has a site, or if you go to different beacon vendors, whether it's Radius Networks or mine's Nordic Semiconductor.
We've tested on a wide range of them, and we haven't had an issue with anything so far.
Okay, I haven't tried the little tile find your keys thing, but again,
I need one though.
But again, it's a Bluetooth LE beacon that sends out a major and minor number. So what I think we'll do is probably a blog post at some point in time, and we can put up ones that we've played with.
Yeah, and
ourselves.
The one that I demonstrated today was from Rad Radius Networks.
Right.
It's called the Rad Beacon.
Rad Beacon.
And what I like about it is that it's got a USB plug, so I can easily bring it with me on my laptop for these kinds of demonstrations. I can plug it into the wall socket through a USB to electrical dongle. So it just happens to be the one that I like to use for that purpose.
Yeah. And then there was a question here about, is there any handshaking involved between the beacon and the app? Can the app start accessing any beacons anywhere they are in range?
In practice, no, they're not supposed to. It's just a radio signal that gets emitted and you pick it up. Your app can start interacting, well, not interacting with it, but getting information from it as soon as it's in proximity. On Windows, on the other hand, their Bluetooth LE implementation does require some pairing, which is a Windows-specific behavior. On mobile, though, Android and iOS, there is absolutely no pairing or handshaking that needs to happen at all.
Or if you have an old and more recent Mac, then Bluetooth LE is supported as well. And you saw that in the demo with JT that he did live this morning that we recorded. He had a beacon, and all of a sudden, but his app, which went out and did discovery, it found two beacons. It found the one JT has plugged into his MacBook. He found the other one that was in my office that's, well, it's 2 offices from the studio, so it said the distance was about 3.5 meters, and that's just about right.
By the way, I did look up the range. It is 10 meters.
Is it 10 meters for
Bluetooth LE? Yeah.
Okay. So now the app itself, if it sees beacons, it identifies by UUID, and then uses the major and minor number to look up, for example, in a back-end service or something to know, oh, this is the supermarket you're in, or this is the department store, or this is the train station you're in, or whatever. Then the app that you build or that you use can do special things.
Precisely.
One of the demos I saw from Nordic Semiconductor, all it did was, if it came within range, it put up a picture of the Mona Lisa, for example.
Right.
So your app could be a museum app where you're walking through museums, and instead of having the key and the number next to a painting, they could put a beacon on every major painting. And you see people with little headsets on. They could sell you, an app that you would download, or give you an app, and it would then play the spiel, whatever it is, as you're near the Mona Lisa in the Louvre or something else. Lots of great use cases.
One thing that I did recently here in San Jose, we just opened a new stadium for our local soccer team, and so I went to the very first opening. I happened to have this app running on my phone, and I found many beacons.
Oh, the new stadium,
the
new Earthquake Stadium in San Jose.
They haven't started using it yet, but I definitely found a bunch of beacons plugged in around there.
So, and Jatine, you're right, the app would need to know what
to do with that information.
How to use the major minor, for example, to do something, right?
It has absolutely no meaning unless you write the logic for what it's supposed to mean. And you can program this. I see Jatine had another question. Can you program the major minor IDs? Yes, you can. That's the point of it, is to set these up so that you can identify each individual beacon within your array.
Yeah, for my Nordic Semiconductor beacons, they give you an app where you can put the beacon in program mode, and you can change the UUID, and you can change the major minor value to whatever you want.
Yep.
The one you saw displayed, that 011222, that's their default generic UUID as a starter, but you could set that to be anything, and you get that UUID as well.
Right.
So you can use that. You could encode, in a sense, as part of that long UUID, some data that might mean something separate from the major minor.
There isn't like a global registry though, but there are definitely some fields that are publishing UUIDs that you can do REST calls to figure out, if it's something that you can identify via a cloud service.
Yeah,
but generally speaking, it's very specific to your installation.
And as far as the pricing, if you buy things in quantity, but just go out on the internet, look at Amazon or go out your favorite semiconductor store. I think I bought some of my beacons via like Arrow. Arrow's a big semiconductor distributor, and they have outlets and online shop sites here in the U.S., but you can just search anywhere. You can get them direct from the manufacturers and look at the prices. So
just to use an example, like when you go into Macy's and they have beacons everywhere, it's not going to do anything unless you have the Macy's app running. The Macy's app knows the meaning of the UUIDs, the major and minor IDs of the beacons that it has spread throughout the department store.
And if you logged into the Macy's app, then they know something about you, like you have Macy's credit card.
And most of this is driven by information on the back end, right? Because I log in, they know that I shop for Adidas shoes regularly, so they offer me a coupon to get me to go.
Or your sizes.
Correct.
Your dimensions of whatever.
So
pants,
it's very
dresses.
domain and application specific.
How secure are these? Well, they broadcast.
Yeah.
That's all they do. There's no personal information.
Correct. Yeah, they're not secure, but there's nothing to worry about because it's just some numbers.
It's a UUID and a major minor number.
Right.
And a signal strength. Let's see. Other than USB, how are the beacons powered? Battery. Mine has a little 2016 CR 2016 battery plugged in. Sometimes it's a watch battery.
I've seen like ways that they can be plugged into a kind of like using an extension cord type of approach. I mean, they need to get power from somewhere, but they use very little power. So batteries are even solar, or there's a small battery on it, like the tag that David was talking about. There's a small battery that lives on that thing too.
Yeah, I don't know if there's public lists of major minor IDs. There may be companies and or maybe it's downtowns where beacons are placed. I know there was something going on in New York where somebody put beacons like in all sorts of locations around Manhattan, but nobody figured out who did it or why, but maybe somebody was seeding beacons maybe for a touring app or specials going on nearby. I'm not sure who it was, but there's no, unless you search for public beacon IDs. That's probably a Google search that's worth doing sometime. Maybe some locations, some cities, for example, in the world have done this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think there was the point here that maybe this is a good project for somebody. I think it could be. Yeah, I mean, some type of service for people looking that up. Yeah, that could be very interesting.
So I have Ian's going, the cigarette lighter in a car if you have one. I have an adapter plug which has a USB on one end and the cigarette lighter plug on the other end. So I have a Radius Networks USB dongle. I could plug that in and have it in my car.
What's an interesting point about this is that beacons don't need to be stationary.
Correct.
Right? It could be the other way around. You could be like in a manufacturing floor. Beacons could be traveling just like RF tags do still, or barcodes travel with the package as it's going through, and that can be used to track its movement as opposed to the other way around, which is the app is tracking the movement to a stationary object. So it's the theory of relativity basically in work.
So again, 10 meters. So my car is parked out in the front. I could stick one of these in the auxiliary output, which is a USB that's on. And I guess if I was within 10 meters near the building, I could see if my car was moving.
Right. We can know when David's getting to work.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, they would be tracking me all over the place. And Ian's just going www.sensoro.com. Okay.
Cool. I'll check those out.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think we covered all the ones. Let me make sure.
Somebody did ask about one of the promotions. If you have any questions about those, I'd be happy to take those on my personal email, jt@embarcadero.com.
Yeah, and there's no way for beacons to talk to each other. A typical beacon is a send-only beacon.
It's about as dumb a device as you can have, but the smarts come from the application and from the back-end information that you use to do something with that identification and location of that beacon.
It's really because he was saying, could a beacon talk to another beacon or find a beacon for beacon to beacon, but you need some application that goes out and broadcasts to discover beacons and then reads the data in from the beacon. I suppose someone could create a device that could be both a beacon and a discoverer of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really...
But beacons are never going to, at least the way they're designed today, receive information from anything. They just transmit information. Alex asked when the next release is coming out. We have not published that, but I do want to again point out that we have a special promotion right now until March 31st, which is if you buy XE7 today, which by the way has Bluetooth LE support in it. You can actually do beacon work with that now. You will get the next major release for free when it's made available. So don't wait.
I was just answering this other one about beacons only send, they don't receive, but someone could build a device that could send and receive. In fact, you could build a Windows app or a Mac app that could receive the beacon data and could do something with it and send something to another app. So, but otherwise they're send only. Other than when they're put in program mode to program them through Bluetooth.
And where they're most interesting is when you pair that with some kind of back-end data. That's exactly how these retail solutions like that Minority Report work. If it was just something on the mobile device, you know, you need a lot of data there about that user in order to drive his buying behavior. But if you keep that on the back end, then you can just make calls out to your REST server or your middleware to get that information and then do something useful with it on the client.
Okie dokie. That looks like all the questions. JT, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you this Thursday for Friday Skill Sprints, or Friday for Tech Partner Spotlights, or next Tuesday for Marco Cantu EMS
Push notifications.
Push notifications.
Another preview feature.
Okay, everyone, check out the Red Offer page, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye.